Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I have a super special guest. I met her recently at the Tennessee Carnivore Retreat called Meat Stock 2024, and I had the chance to work with her in the kitchen. I got to chop things and do dishes and learn from this amazing person who is known to me as Chef Patty and is known to YouTube as Carnivore Hippie. We are going to get to know her today, and I'll have a few pictures throughout this of our time in Tennessee because that was just an amazing, magical time. Well, probably more for me than Chef Patty because she was working so hard. But we're gonna get to know a lot of things about Patricia today. So welcome. Thank you for coming on my channel today. I just enjoyed so much meeting you in Tennessee and, just getting to learn some things from you because you're a trained chef. So that was pretty exciting. I don't know how you did it. You fed, I don't know, I would guess between 40 and 60 people every day. And we're not talking like just regular people. We're talking the likes of Dr. Sean Baker and Dr. Kiltz and, all these big names were there. These people love their meat. Like, how did you do it? How did you cope?
I just decided I was going to do it, actually. I actually wasn't all of that intimidated. I was trained as a chef. I never went into the restaurant industry just because by the time I finished cooking school, I realized that most of the people who work in the restaurant industry don't work in the restaurant industry because they love to cook. Most of them work in the restaurant industry because they either need the money or because they want the recognition. And I realized that it wasn't really the industry for me. Okay. And so I just kept my skills up by practicing. I did a lot of catering for family and friends mostly, but I have a pretty decently large family, and I was always the one who was doing the family meals, Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner for 25 or 30 people, at a time. And I wouldn't say I did it entirely by myself, but, you always have somebody who's like, what can I bring?
Right,
and you tell them something. But as far as the main dish and the main side dishes and the meal itself, it's pretty much me. So 40 people was something I have done more than once. Okay. And so I realized, and I knew I was going to have some help, and I realized that, scaling up to 60 really isn't that much different. So I realized that the kind of work that it was going to entail and the kind of planning that it was going to entail. But, like I said, I wasn't really intimidated. I was excited more than anything because this is the first time really in my life that I've actually done this in a professional capacity. I mean, I've done other little things. This was really exciting. I feel like I'm really grateful to Scott and Jennifer for giving me this opportunity. And I had a blast. I was in my element and I was working really, really hard, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a strain, It felt like, that feeling when you're just in your groove and you're working hard, but it's just like you're in your groove and it doesn't feel like, oh my God, how can I do this? It didn't feel like that.
You thrive from it. Like you feed off of it. And
exactly.
I know what you mean. I mean, you know what was so cool about it though is because it's carnivores, and so it's a lot of meat, and you would have had to have kind of figured out somehow ahead of time, how much meat all these people were going to eat and keep it interesting and exciting every day. I mean, it was just all so good. I just really enjoyed all the food that was there. It was wonderful.
good.
So,
Um,
so
Everybody
okay,
seems to, so that was really, really, that just like
yeah.
filled my heart up.
Yes. Oh, and the other thing, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, that we learned that you have a beautiful voice.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
you
I've been
you
singing
you
since I was a
sang
little
for
girl.
us too. Really? Oh my goodness. Oh, that.
My
I
sister's
mean, that
even better than me.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
that was one of those unexpected surprises. You're with somebody, you're getting to know them, you're learning things about them, and then this happens.
My whole
you just
family is musical. My whole family is musical. So it would have been weird had I not had some sort of musical proclivity. But yeah, I've been a
okay.
singer since I was a little kid.
Okay. All right. Well, something to look forward to at the next retreat. So, people can come and taste your tasty food and also listen to you sing because it is a treat. It definitely
Thank
was a
you.
treat. So let's talk about though your history. I was told by somebody at the retreat that you have lost, like, I don't know what it is, but over 100 pounds for sure. And
To date, it's 120 pounds.
wow, that's incredible. So
Yeah,
I know what that is like,
yeah, I know you
because,
do.
yeah, so it's fantastic. Like, I know so many people have lost, weight, doing keto or low carb or carnivore. When you get into that 100-pound plus range, it's I know the journey. I know how long and hard it can be, and also how life changing it can be.
Oh, absolutely.
And so this is what I'm hoping to learn today. Is what are the things that propelled you along your journey? How long ago, when did you start this? How did it all unfold? Do you want to take a few minutes and,
Sure.
you know,
Well, my weight loss journey, altogether, it has been about, I think altogether, it's probably been about 10 years.
yeah,
Of course, I was heavy as a teenager, so there was the period of up and down and trying this and trying that,
sure,
and
yeah.
and I was young and I was impatient and I felt pretty good despite my weight. So I just really decided at that point that I didn't want to pay much attention to it. And then I got into my uh, late 30s and I realized that there were some serious sequelae to being as heavy as I was. And I just became convinced that I needed to do something about it. And you know, basically, diets don't work.
Yeah.
And so that became frustrating. Eventually, basically what happened is I was working at a job where I had really good health insurance, and I was told by my doctor that I might be eligible for weight reduction surgery, weight loss surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I really seriously considered it, but I thought, no, I'm gonna learn exactly what they're gonna do to my body, and I'm gonna understand what's going on before I let anybody, lay a scalpel to me. And as I was researching it, I realized that all that the weight loss surgery does is make it easier to not eat,
Mm.
pretty much. And I mean, there's a few other things that it does, but
Sure, yeah.
first and foremost, it just makes it easy not to eat anything. And I thought, well, hell, I don't have to have pieces of my body cut off to do that. I can just learn to fast. And I knew that if I was motivated enough, I could learn to do it. And I knew that people had fasted for long periods of time with very few ill effects. And I just decided I was going to figure out how to do it and I was going to do that. And I did. And I wound up doing what I would now call intermittent fasting.
Okay.
And I lost about 40 pounds that way, but I didn't tell anybody I was doing it because I was ashamed because like I said, this was about 10 years ago, and the common knowledge at the time was that, oh, no, you mustn't fast because you'll mess up your metabolism.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell anybody, but I was just so tired of nothing working, and this seemed to be working. But I got to about 40 pounds down, and it stopped working anymore.
Okay.
Which I understand now also is pretty typical. At that point, I just decided, because of my weight and because of some health issues that my husband had, we decided to try to go plant-based. We thought that was the next step. And, well, just exactly what you would think would happen happened. We both just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And the sicker we got, the more we were convinced that we just weren't veganing hard enough. Until it got to the point where I was just so physically ill that I could hardly leave my house. And the other thing on top of that was that I had been diagnosed with clinical depression as a teenager. And I had been living with it and managing it without medication because I was never able to tolerate the medications once they got to a therapeutic dose. Side effects were just terrible. But what happened was the harder I veganed, the worse my mood disorder got. And in 2001, my son, my only child, passed away from a drug overdose.
Oh.
And that complicated my, because of the situation, I won't go too much into the circumstances, but because of the situation and the way it happened, I wound up being diagnosed with PTSD. And then several years later, when I was taking care of my mother at the end of her life, she passed away, basically in a very similar way to the way my son passed away. Basically collapsed right in front of me and passed away, and there was nothing I could do about it. And that complicated my PTSD even more. And I just got to the point where I just didn't have anything left emotionally.
Yeah.
And where things began to turn around, I just didn't care anymore. And it got to the point where the way I like to tell it is I stopped working. I wasn't really doing much of anything at all. It took so much energy just to live through the day that I couldn't work. I couldn't practice anything. I couldn't, I couldn't even sing. I physically couldn't sing.
Wow.
Because every time I tried to, my throat would close. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I was sitting on my couch one day watching TV, and I just was overwhelmed all of a sudden by this feeling of futility. And I just said, okay, God, if you want, I just prayed. I said, if you want me to live, you got to bring me something. I have nothing left. You have to show me the direction to go in, because I have tried everything I can think of. I have done everything I can have the energy to do. And if you don't bring me something, I'm just going to sit here and watch TV till I die. And the very next day, I was watching television, and I saw a TED Talk by Dr. Peter Attia. I'd never heard of him before.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
And he was the first one I ever heard saying things that the people in our community pretty much understand as matters of fact at this point, but how the medical establishment has so much that's just wrong, and how they tell patients to do things and they give people health advice that's not backed up by any science at all. And and he was the first person I ever heard use the phrase health span rather than lifespan. And and anyway, there it was. That was my answer to prayer, in that it piqued my interest enough to look up Dr. Attia on YouTube. And I don't really espouse the things that Dr. Attia espouses, really, but they were interesting enough that I went down the YouTube rabbit hole. And long story short, Dr. Atia's videos, the YouTube algorithm being what it is, led me to Dr. Ken Berry.
Of course, yes.
And of course, who else, right? And then that was the beginning of the new me, really. I went keto, and then I went carnivore. I was inspired to go carnivore. I don't know how many of your followers will know the name Bart K.
Probably a lot of them, I would think.
Probably a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I started listening to Bart just because I liked how naughty he was mostly. He used to be very, very naughty.
Oh, anyway, much more so than now?
Way more so than now. Oh my goodness. If you go on one of his other platforms and look at his old videos, oh my goodness. Anyway. But I started listening to him, like I said, because I enjoyed his sense of humor.
Right.
But I also understood somewhat more the science that he was talking about. And he was really, besides Dr. Berry, was the first person who ever really was saying things and pointing out the inconsistencies. And I really started to understand how the medical establishment had gotten it wrong and how the advice I'd been following was actually harming me. And in New Year's of 2020, during the thing, I was inspired to try to go carnivore. And I have to say, I've never been super strict carnivore, but as far as just cutting out like 85-90% of plant-based foods, and I don't eat anything plant-based. I don't like any vegetable foods because I think I need to. I only eat the ones that I enjoy, and I only eat them because I enjoy them.
Well, you said something to me. I sort of made a note here at the retreat, and I was really struck by it. You said, and I probably am not saying it perfectly right, so you can correct me on this, but you said you get your nutrition from meat, but you add a few other things because you like them, and
pretty much.
So
that's exactly it. I eat animal source food for health.
Yeah.
And I eat other things because I like taste. Everything else I eat for enjoyment.
Yeah. So you're one of the people out there that I have met that are not concerned with these labels, and I liked that about you, because I mean, who wakes up in the morning and says, I want to become a carnivore? You don't. You wake up and I want to live healthier. I want to feel good. I want to accomplish things. It's not the label of what you're eating. I don't know. You just sort of explained it well to me, and it kind of struck a chord with me when we were talking.
I just like to say I don't do labels much at all.
Yeah.
Anybody can call me whatever they want. They can what do they call it? Misgender me, and I don't care. Because I don't define myself according to what anybody else says. I define myself according to what's in here, and that's been a long, long journey for me. And I'm embracing that fully and totally. Nobody can label me and bother me with a label. So I call myself a carnivore because I eat over 75% of my food is animal based, and the rest of it is whatever I happen to feel like eating at the time. Even a little bit of sugar on the odd day.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of carnivores out there that have honey, that have some fruit. And even at the retreat, I was actually pleasantly surprised that there was always, along with the huge table of meat, there was always a veggie or two. There was some fruit and yogurt, for those that wanted, that addition. And I thought, well, how undogmatic is this? This is great.
Well, this is a lot to do with Scott and Jennifer and the Wired for Healing people
Mm-hmm.
because Wired for Healing does address a lot of people who have long-term chronic illness problems like SIRS and mold toxicity and
Yes.
long-term chronic inflammatory diseases and things like that. And there's people who have the kind of metabolic and systemic injuries that make it difficult for them to eat only meat,
Yes.
either because it's physically uncomfortable for them or they have histamine issues and they can't eat like aged meat. They have to have all of their food very, very, very freshly cooked. So the point is that, yeah, most of the people who we work with are at least animal based or meat
Mm-hmm.
heavy,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not going to be for everybody. I mean, in general, would I agree with the phrase that human beings are obligate carnivores? Yes, in general. Yes, I absolutely do believe that. But the kinds of systemic and metabolic injuries that have been engendered by the modern standard
Mm-hmm.
American diet really do create, and our modern ways of living, microtoxicities all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
We all have injuries that are unique, and we all have to deal with those injuries in the
Yes.
unique way that they have to be dealt with. So
Yes.
to go around telling somebody else what they ought to eat is just not going to be helpful
No.
in my mind.
No. And I was really struck by the diversity of people that were there that had just a wide they had healed from a wide range of issues. It was really touching to have conversations with some of these people.
So poignant, really.
Yes. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that Wired for Healing is about more than just diet. It's
Yeah.
an entire
Absolutely.
lifestyle. It is about training your brain to learn how to escape from those negative thought patterns that keep you in the negative headspace that can actually keep you sick.
Yeah.
Just having that defeated attitude can keep you from getting well because it activates your chronic fight or flight
Mm-hmm.
syndrome, and
Yeah.
that just destroys your metabolic health. It destroys your lymph system. It destroys your hormones and body chemistry. And what Wired for Healing is about is using every modality possible, including just attitude.
I was really
Addressing.
impressed. Yeah, I was so impressed with all of the things that I learned there. I mean, it's just definitely not about just the food.
Right.
And so how did you become the chef for this event?
Well, the last year's event, 2023, was in November, and the first
Okay.
day of the event was actually November 1st, which is my birthday. And I had been following Wired for Healing for a little while earlier in the year, like they got started like in the late winter, early spring of 2023, and and a friend of mine, Pim Johnson, who is Bart Kay's partner, I had
Mm-hmm.
worked with her for a while on. We had a Facebook group together, and I had hired her to as a coach, and it
Okay.
was partly her that encouraged where working with her where I became emboldened to try carnivore, and so she was working with them for a while, and Bart and she had Scott on their channel to kind of promote this group, and a lot of what Pim does is a lot of the same thing that Scott and Jen are doing,
Okay.
and So basically I joined their group and I learned about the retreat and I thought, oh, what a cool birthday present, right? So I told my hubby, this is what I want for my birthday present. So he said, yeah, whatever. Okay. And so, but it was expensive. And I just ended up having a conversation with Scott during a live stream for Wired for Healing. I was the first one on the live stream before the guest speaker had checked in, and we ended up having a short conversation, and I realized that they needed help with the food program at the upcoming retreat. And I said, well, this seems kind of, propitious. I'm trained and I would be willing to help you, help out in the kitchen and, do whatever I can to help out. And so Scott said, oh, that sounds great. And he gave me a discount and I basically helped them out in the kitchen, and I wound up kind of taking over the whole deal. Not that they didn't let me, but when all was said, I had a great time. And when all was said and done, a couple of weeks after that, we were on a class in the Wired for Healing, group. And he basically held me back after class and said, we're going to do this again next year. And I want you to cook. I want you to be the chef. Because he said he was really blown away by how I managed it. And I said, I'm down. Sign me up. And I've said many times to them, I said, you're not going to get rid of me now. You're going to have to, hog tie me and dump me in the well to get rid of me at this point. I'm in.
That's funny. Yeah. So, and I'm glad you were there because it was amazing. So, and you did the full, there was 2 retreats back to back.
Yeah.
So, you had the first batch of us, and then you had to do it all over again.
The last day of the first session overlapped the first day of the second session. Yeah. So we got nothing. We didn't get anything in between. We had to clean that place and do all the laundry by ourselves in one day.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think I want to do that again, but
no, that's a lot of work. But
it was crazy.
Yeah. But there was a lot of, I was glad to see there was a lot of people stepping up to help, just even little things. Audra was in the kitchen there cooking bacon and
she's the bacon whisperer.
She is. She did that bacon was amazing. And people were washing, unloading the dish. There was 3 or 4 dishwashers and people were unloading, loading, there was just this constant revolving door of dishes. And I was lucky enough that I got to help with the meatloaf and the stew. And those are the 2 recipes that I had on my channel so that people could get to know what you are capable of. Those are 2 things that were just amazing. That was the best stew I ever tasted, the best meat. Guess what I had for lunch today?
Stew?
The meatloaf. I made, but I made it into all muffins this time.
Yeah.
And it was, that's what I had for lunch, and yummy. Just love it. It's going to be
faster that way too.
It sure does. 20 minutes. So that was all it needed, and that's a regular rotation stuff. That is so good. So so you need to do a cookbook or something. Get those.
Well, I don't think I'd do a hard paper cookbook, but it's been suggested that I maybe publish an ebook, but that's still in the discussion stage.
Yeah. Well, totally. I mean, there'd be a lot of people that buy it. So, that's definitely what you should put on your list of things to do in the future.
Along with everything else.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we got a little sidetracked there. We were talking about you found a few people like Bart Kay and Dr. Barry and all these things. And so then you started on this journey and you lost 120 pounds. So
well, like I said, I had lost about 40 pounds to begin with. So I wasn't quite at my heaviest then, but it had kind of bottomed out.
Okay.
And I wasn't gaining the weight back, which I thought was great. but I wasn't going any further down. But then when I started doing carnivore, I did lose a little bit more, about 20
Mm-hmm.
pounds more when I went keto,
Okay.
but that bottomed out too.
Yeah.
And then when I went carnivore and I really, really stopped doing all the vegetables, I think what really turned the corner for me was I got rid of all the vegetables and my gut started to heal. While I was doing
Mm.
keto, I was doing a lot of veggies because, you get told, oh, you have to have fiber. And one of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
physical health issues was IBS.
Oh,
And it was at one point it was really completely disabling to the point where I couldn't go out of the house without knowing where the bathroom was.
yeah. I've heard
I wouldn't
stories
even
like
I
that.
wouldn't even go into a store that didn't have a restroom
Wow.
because it just I mean the worst part about it was the urgency. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be walking around somewhere and in a matter of 15 to 30 seconds I was just desperate
Yeah.
to not soil myself
Yeah.
anyway.
That's a
But
hard way to live.
it's yeah, and but anyway, the carnivore and getting rid of the vegetables made the difference to me. I started being able to digest my food. I could eat food without discomfort. I used to have a problem to where I would have a period of nausea about 10 or 15 minutes after I had eaten. I
Mm-hmm.
would get nauseated and then I would have to run to the bathroom invariably after every meal. And then
Okay.
sometimes the nausea would just last for hours and sometimes it would only last for a few minutes. But it was just really, really distressing and difficult. And that's completely gone.
Wow.
I don't, I mean, I still have the odd symptom here and there,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I eat things that I know aren't the best for me.
Yeah.
But as far as the urgency and being fearful of, soiling myself, that's all long gone in the past. And
That's
I,
wonderful.
s- I still have what I would consider delicate digestion, but I know
Mm-hmm.
what to avoid now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's nothing that I need that distresses my guts.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I would say gut issue, like for me, that was really the one lingering thing as well, that it would sort of come up now and then, and it still does, and I always know what I did.
Oh yeah.
I always am like, okay, there's certain things, and they are from the plant kingdom. I mean, for me, it's things like a raw tomato, or raw tomato will do it, or raw onion, different things like that. And I
Yeah.
know that, I know that,
But
but
they
they
taste
still it
good.
still happens sometimes,
Yes, they
and
do.
yeah. But knowledge is power, and so for the most part, it looks like we're able to kind of navigate that, and
Well, I think part of it is the fact that you learn what it is that bothers you, and at some
yeah,
point it just kind of clicks in your head, and you realize, okay, I could eat this, and it would taste really, really good, and I would enjoy it. But um, do I want to choose the consequences as
hmm
well?
hmm
And I
yeah,
find that those severe consequences are kind of a mixed blessing because that's what helps you make the choice
yeah,
to abstain.
definitely, yeah. So, what does a typical day of eating look like for you now?
Well, I usually eat like twice a day. I guess people would call it too mad, but I
Hmm.
mean, one of my meals is my main meal, and my second meal is usually, well, I guess, what people would call a snack.
Okay.
Just probably 8 to 10 bites of food, typically. And depending on what my schedule is or how hungry I've been, my main meal is usually half a pound-ish of meat and sometimes a couple of eggs as well, depending on how hungry I am. So maybe some cheese, maybe a little bit of veg or salsa or tomato sauce or whatever it is as a condiment, whatever I'm into. And then probably 4 to 6 hours later, like I said, depending on my schedule and what I'm doing, I'll have either a little bit more of what I had for my main meal, or I'll just grab some cheese, or I'll have some yogurt, or I'll have something that's handy in the fridge. Probably volume wise, probably about the same as an egg or two. Like I say, 8 to 10 bites of food.
Okay. All right.
And then coffee.
Coffee. So what does your family and friends have? Are they supportive? Have you had a hard time?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I've often said I don't buy into labels, and I don't allow anybody else to define me. And one of the things that I like to say is I can just never mind the heck out of something. You just watch me. And so whether my family was supportive or not really wouldn't have made much difference to me, because like I said, I came to this understanding through my own practice of deciding what I wanted to do and thinking things through and figuring things out for myself. That's always how I've been. So once I made the decision to do this, it really wouldn't have made any difference what my family said. And they all knew it. Because as my sister says about me, she says, that's what I love about my sister. She does not give a bleep what anybody else thinks. And it's true.
Yeah, and that's how we survive these things, right?
Yeah, by not giving a bleep. But like, whatever, I'm doing what I'm doing. And so my family being who they are and them knowing me as I do, they all knew that to try to contradict me was pretty pointless. So none of them ever bothered. So if any of them actually disagreed with me or thought I was doing the wrong thing, they never bothered to say anything. But for the most part, they saw the changes in me in pretty short order.
Yeah.
So at that point, any naysaying that might have happened just went by the wayside. I haven't been able to get really any of my family besides my husband on board, which I'm really, really profoundly grateful for, because he had some serious physical issues that have been really, really helped by this way of eating and this way of life. And so he is much better than he was when we began, and continues to improve. So I'm grateful for that. And as far as friends go, same as family. All the people who know me know it's kind of pointless to contradict me, because I'll just whatever. You can take that somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, and
it hasn't been difficult.
And they can see a change in you. I mean, you can't hide 120-pound weight loss.
No.
But even beyond that, I mean, you and I both know that losing over 100 pounds has physical implications. Like, we can fit in chairs, we can get seat belts on, we can do things that we were not able to do when, I mean, I was over 300 pounds. I don't know where you were, but there were certain things I could never do.
300. Just
there
tipping
you go.
300.
So when you're in that weight range, there's so many things we can't do. But that's the physical part of it. And so there's also how we feel, our happiness, our emotional, spiritual, mental health. How has that changed for you, and what effect does that have on your life these days?
You hear so many people talk about how I lost the weight and I was so much happier. And for me, that was never it, because my issue with mood was an actual mood disorder.
Okay.
And I'm convinced that it was simply the mistake of not eating the right kinds of fats. I was, 100% all in on the low fat, and you mustn't eat animal fat, and saturated fat will kill you, and blah, blah, blah. And I ate very little in the way of animal fats. And it was after I stopped eating the vegetable fats I'll still eat the odd avocado,
Sure.
Mm-hmm. But I was eating seed oils and margarine and
the healthy vegetable oils, right?
Oh yes. God, when I think about it now, it just makes my skin crawl. Yeah. But and I believe that although I was never diagnosed, but knowing what I know now and understanding myself the way I do, I believe I had brain inflammation from the chronic inflammation from just all of this microtoxic food that I was eating, plus the fact that I realized when I stopped eating gluten that I was not allergic to it, but gluten intolerant. Because just not eating bread anymore, and that was difficult because bread is my nemesis. Even to this day, I get very strongly tempted to eat bread sometimes. And I have learned that when I eat gluten, any more than just like a bite, then I can tell within about 20 minutes it starts. My attitude changes, my capacity to focus and concentrate changes. And if I go like 3 or 4 days in a row and eat bread, my mood goes boom. And I'll wake up one morning just angry at the world or feeling hopeless. And I realize, that's gluten brain. And as long as I stay away from that, my mood stays pretty good. And the other junk food too. But
it makes you wonder about, the world that we live in and the number of people these days that are on, antidepressants and children. I'm really feeling for children right now that are.
It makes me heart sick.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to wonder about the food links to that, because they're not eating the way we ate as children.
Oh, no. And even we weren't eating as children the way our parents were eating as children.
That's right. Right.
So this teenage, when I was coming up, the talk was about the explosion of teenage anxiety and teenage depressive disorders and stuff like that. And then as I've gotten older, by the time I had kids, it was talking about, preteens, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-olds with depression. And now we're talking about 3 or 4-year-olds with mood disorders.
Yes. And type 2 diabetes in children.
And type 2 diabetes, yeah. And there's been some really good research done recently linking occurrence of metabolic syndrome with anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
So they co-occur a lot, apparently.
Yes.
And I know that when I solved, at the same time I solved my metabolic issues, I resolved my emotional issues as well.
So that was kind of my question. Do you feel like those things have been resolved for you now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I consider my clinical depression to be fully remitted. I consider myself to be completely recovered from PTSD. I don't have any symptoms of either one unless I start eating things that don't agree with me. Yeah. And I hate to say start eating things that I shouldn't or eat things that I can't eat.
I know.
I don't think that's helpful language to say I can't eat that. No, I could eat it, and I know I could because I have done. But I choose not to, because as the old saying goes, nothing tastes as good as feeling well feels.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I have to agree with that 100% because, I mean, yeah, there are times, and I just feel, I don't know, there's really nothing worth it anymore to me.
No, really nothing. I mean, there was a
Yeah.
time when I would have given my soul for a certain kind of cookie.
Right.
And it's like cookies aren't even a thing for me anymore.
So, you have a YouTube channel, and
I do.
yes, and I am in the show notes of this video, of course, is going to be all your contact information. So we're going to have your YouTube channel in there. Where else are you around on social media?
I am not a social media mogul. Scott's been encouraging me to branch out, but
Right.
it's such a strain for me to work with computers. So Scott's promised he's going to help me, but we've just gotten over with this tremendously large project, and now he's working on another project for Wired for Healing, and so, but he's promised me at some point that he'll help me get a website up, so I'll do that. But for right now, people can find me at Carnivore Hippie 8071 on YouTube, and they can email me at auntpattycarnivorehippie@gmail.com.
Okay. And what about Instagram? Are you on Instagram?
No, none of that, really.
Okay.
I
actually just learned how, I'm starting to learn how to do Instagram again. Kelly Hogan was at the retreat, and she actually took the time to show me how to do an Instagram story. I had never done one before. I mean, this is the level I'm at, so I'm kind of with you on the...
Maybe I'll hit Kelly up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. She was so patient, and I now know how to do that one thing. There's a whole bunch of other things I don't know how to do, but, learning one thing at a time. But we'll definitely have all of your contact stuff in there. But as we're coming to a close on this, I just want to give you a chance to talk to, maybe people who are thinking of following this kind of a lifestyle. If you have any advice for them or what you would like them to know.
Everybody's unique and everybody has unique injuries. And the people who are seeking the hardest generally have the most most challenges. But the first thing that I would say is do not give up. A lot of us, including myself at one point, got so, just so fed up with being told over and over again to do things by medical professionals that just don't work. Mm-hmm. The answers are out there, but you have to be bold to do something different and scary.
Yes.
And that's what I did. And what I would say to people is don't give up. Find something that you can try. Right? Go off the beaten track. Even if, like I like to say, even if you end up falling off the wagon, bouncing off the road, rolling down the hill and landing splat in a mud puddle every now and then, get back up, climb back up the hill and jump back on the wagon. Mm-hmm. The only way to fail is to give up.
Yeah.
And it took me a long, long time, but I found it. And I consider it an answer to prayer. But really, what I would like to say is this is real. This is real. Mm-hmm. You can do this. It's not easy, but you can do it. Don't give up. Anybody just wants a pep talk even, just email me. I'll share more about how I did things. Just pick something, one thing that you can do, and do it every day for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then once you're used to that and it's become habit, pick the next thing. and just add that to your schedule and just do it until you can do it without thinking about it. And that's pretty much how I got started. I ditched sugar until I was used to that. And then I ditched grains and beans until I was used to that. And I just went one step at a time. It can be actually kind of bad for you to try and slam over, because I made actually a video on my YouTube channel about 18 months ago about why you shouldn't just slam over from a standard American diet to slam over to keto and then slam over to carnivore. It really, most people who start to try a carnivore diet and then immediately fail and quit because they think it's not good for them, because they think it's making them sick, because they tried to slam over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have heard stories of people going over, they get to their goal weight and they live happily ever after. But I think most of the stories I've heard are starts and stops and easing into it. There's nothing wrong with one step at a time.
Wrong with one step at a time. The harder you work to succeed at the beginning, the more likely you are to have long-term success.
Yeah.
If it's too easy to start with, the likelihood is that you'll fall off the wagon more than if it's difficult. So that difficulty, the struggle, is what makes you strong and resilient. Embrace the struggle. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're not doing it right.
Okay, thank you so much, Patty, for joining us today. And I really hope that you come back sometime and we can do a live Q&A. We have talked about that, so that would be a lot of fun. So, yes. If there's any topics out there that you guys would like us to cover, Chef Patty is trained in so many things. I learned so much about her. Knives and, right pots and pans and all kinds of good cooking, type tips. So I think that would be an interesting Q&A to do.
Yeah.
So, but if you have any ideas or questions, we would be happy to come back and have a live Q&A for you guys. So let us know down below in the comments. And thank you so much, Patty,
You're
for
welcome.
coming. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you again outside of the kitchen where, things were moving so fast sometimes when we were busy. So, and I hope that at the next retreat, you allow me back in to help you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna lasso you.
Awesome. I loved working with you in there. It was so much fun. And
I loved working with you too. Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Okay.
Anytime, honey.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Everybody.